you're going to see a lot of people saying, well, it's effectively over. It's going to be Trump and Clinton. And I think the lesson from this Super Tuesday is we have some pretty good indications of who the two nominees will be, but it is definitely not over. We've got a big primary a week from yesterday, Michigan, and also Mississippi that day. But more importantly, on March 15th, you have 5 big states holding their primaries. 3 of them on the Republican side, winner take all, and 2 of those, Ohio and Florida, being sort of the last stand or the last opportunity for Governor Kasich, and Senator Marco Rubio to make a statement. So I think after March 15th, we'll have a sense of whether Trump has wrapped it up or Clinton has wrapped it up, or whether we're going to have a continual march all the way through June in the California primary. Well, on the Republican side, it's really Kasich and Rubio's last stand, as I mentioned, in Ohio and in Florida. If Trump wins, certainly both Ohio and Florida, but candidly either one of them, he will be pretty close to having built up, because those are winner-take-all states, an insurmountable delegate lead for somebody else to overcome and ultimately seize the nomination from him. If, the fact is that the not Trump candidates are splitting the vote. There are 3 of them, and then there's Trump. And as long as he keeps getting between, the high 30s and the high 40s in terms of percentage of the votes, even if there may be a slight majority of Republican primary voters who don't favor Trump, as long as they're splitting their vote between 2 or 3 candidates, Trump will continue to win primaries. Perfect example of that is what happened in Virginia yesterday. So Virginia is a state that you probably would have thought Marco Rubio would win. But John Kasich got 9% of the vote. So Trump had the high 30s, Rubio was in the mid-30s, Kasich's 9%, which probably would have gone to Rubio if it had just been a 2-person race, basically through the campaign or through that state to Donald Trump. So I think that's the dynamic that we see now. Now there is a slight chance that if both Kasich wins Ohio and Rubio wins Florida, so they get all of those delegates, that they would continue on and do well enough that it could potentially, with the Cruz delegates, the Kasich delegates, the Rubio delegates, and the Trump delegates, mean that no candidate has an absolute majority going into the Republican convention this summer. That is a triple bank shot, to use a pool term, a triple bank shot scenario. And even though the commentators love to write about that and talk about brokered conventions, ever since I've been following this stuff, which is really, well, even before, but actively engaged in it since 1980, there are always scenarios where people talk about brokered conventions. It never happens. So I think we're going to have a pretty good idea after March 15th. Now, on the Democratic side, I think Hillary Clinton had a very good day yesterday. She not only won the states that people thought she was going to win, but she won Massachusetts, which is the state that sent Elizabeth Warren, who is probably the United States Senator on a substantive and a policy basis closest to Bernie Sanders, to the Senate. And yet she beat Bernie Sanders in that this is Sanders' home turf. He's from New England. She had a very good day. And I think Sanders' last chance to really demonstrate that he could win the nomination would be to post a victory in Michigan next Tuesday, or in Ohio or Illinois or Florida or Missouri, or probably needing a combination of a couple of those the following Tuesday. If he's not able to do that, I think it'll be very, very clear that Hillary Clinton at that point will have an insurmountable delegate lead and will clearly get the nomination. It's very difficult to play catch-up on the Democratic side because none of the Democratic primaries are winner-take-all. They're all proportionate. So when you have somebody like Hillary Clinton winning some of these southern states, for instance, or even, and Virginia with 65, 70, 75% of the vote, she's rolling up a big, big delegate lead. And in the big Midwestern industrial states, or states like New York or California, even if Sanders does well, it's still going to be, even if he were to win, it's not going to be by that kind of a huge margin. And so consequently, it'd be very hard for him to catch up. That being said, he's not running out of money. He has a very substantive policy case that he's bringing forward to the Democratic Party. And I would expect that this guy's probably going to stay in the race, continue to amass delegates, and then go into the convention with an opportunity to make a big speech and to maybe have an impact on the Democratic Party platform coming out of that convention. Well, I think anytime anyone has a nomination of a major party, they have a chance that they could become elected president. I've been saying for a couple of years now that the presidential election, no matter who the nominees are, is going to be very, very close. And the reason is, if you look back at the last 4 presidential elections, 3 of which have been very close, there are 40 states that in every one of those elections has either voted Democrat or voted Republican. That means it all comes down to, 10 or 11 or 12, depending on who the nominees are, states that are the swing states. Now, the Democrats do have an advantage in that if you look at the states that vote Democratic typically and the ones that vote Republican, the Democrats have enough of an electoral vote lead that if it were Clinton or Sanders, they would only need to win 2 or 3 of those swing states, assuming there are a couple of the big ones in there, to get win the presidency, to get to 270 electoral votes. So there is that advantage. But anytime you have just a handful of swing states and a close election, anything can happen.